The hangar of Theed Palace on Naboo echoed with the clash of lightsabers. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi were locked in a deadly duel against Darth Maul, the mysterious Sith assassin who had finally revealed himself. Sparks burst with every strike, the hum of red and green blades blending into a lethal rhythm. In the shadows of that fight, the fate of the galaxy trembled. But elsewhere, far from the sound of clashing sabers, Chancellor Palpatine sat alone in his office on Coruscant, his fingertips pressed together, eyes half closed in deep thought. To anyone watching, he would appear merely contemplative, perhaps burdened by political matters. In truth, his mind was deep in the currents of the Force, sensing the battle unfolding light years away. A small frown crept across his face. Something was wrong. Maul, his apprentice, was powerful, agile, aggressive, and trained to be a living weapon of the Sith. But Palpatine felt hesitation in the young Zabrak's movements, a flicker of overconfidence perhaps, or worse, weakness. The currents of the Force whispered to him that Maul might not prevail, that the duel on Naboo might end not with the death of the Jedi, but with his apprentice lying lifeless on the hangar floor. That was unacceptable. Palpatine's plan required no survivors among the Jedi involved in this mission. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn both needed to die. If even one lived, they might uncover threads that led back to him. He would not risk that. His mind moved quickly to the contingency he had kept in reserve. A man who had already walked away from the Jedi Order, disgusted by its corruption. A man of refinement, patience, and ambition. Count Dooku of Sereno. It had been years since Dooku abandoned the Order, but Palpatine had seen potential in him immediately. Over time, he had cultivated that potential, feeding Dooku's disillusionment with the Jedi and carefully introducing him to the ways of the dark side. Dooku was not yet a full Sith Lord, not officially. Palpatine had intended to replace Maul with him one day, but that day had not yet come. Still, desperate times demanded decisive action. Palpatine activated a secure comm channel. The holographic image of Count Dooku shimmered into existence before him, tall and dignified in his flowing cape. "Yes, my lord?" Dooku's voice was calm, measured, yet edged with suspicion. "I sense a disturbance in the Force," Palpatine said smoothly. "Lord Maul may not have what it takes to defeat the Jedi on Naboo. I require you to go there at once and ensure that neither Obi-Wan Kenobi nor Qui-Gon Jinn leaves the planet alive. Kill them both." The request made Dooku's eyes narrow. "You ask me to kill Qui-Gon Jinn?" he said coldly. "That was not part of our agreement. I will not harm him." Palpatine's tone cooled. "It seems your feelings for your former apprentice have made you weak, my old friend. That is disappointing." "I have already done much for our cause," Dooku replied, voice hardening. "The clone project on Kamino, the deception of the Republic, the betrayals I have committed against my own order, all of it in service to our greater goal. But I will not kill Qui-Gon." A pause stretched between them. Then Palpatine's voice dropped lower, like a serpent coiling to strike. "So be it. If you will not deal with the Jedi, I will." "No," Dooku's eyes flashed. "I will go." "Good," Palpatine said with a thin smile. "When it is done, report to me at once. I will be eager to hear of your success." The connection cut. Dooku stood in silence for a moment, his jaw tight. He despised being ordered about like an errand boy, and the thought of harming Qui-Gon twisted in his chest. But something told him this mission was going to be far more complicated than Palpatine imagined. Within the hour, his sleek silver ship was cutting through hyperspace toward Naboo. When he arrived in Theed, he made his way swiftly through the palace corridors, his senses reaching out through the Force. The duel was nearby. He could feel the residue of intense combat, the aftershocks of power. Yet, no sound reached him. The hangar was eerily silent. Had it already ended? His steps quickened. Concern pricked at him. Not for the Jedi Order, not for the Republic, but for Qui-Gon Jinn, the one pupil who had ever truly embodied the ideals of a Jedi without succumbing to the Order's hypocrisy. He followed the Force's pull deeper into the palace, toward the generator complex at its heart. Somewhere ahead, faint and muffled, he heard the sound of someone crying. He quickened his pace. When he entered the room, The scene before him made his stomach knot. Obi-Wan Kenobi was kneeling on the floor, cradling Qui-Gon Jinn's still body in his arms. Dooku's breath caught. "No!" Obi-Wan looked up at him, eyes wet with grief. "He's gone." Dooku's voice was sharp with rage. "Who did this?" Was it a Sith? The hum of the generator core faded into silence. Dooku stood over Qui-Gon's lifeless form, the grief pressing heavy against his chest. This was not how his former apprentice's story should have ended. Qui-Gon had been more than a student. He had been a kindred spirit, a man unafraid to question the Jedi Council, someone who still believed in balance when the rest of the Order had been blinded by politics. Dooku's mind replayed years of training sessions, philosophical debates, and moments of quiet understanding between master and pupil. And now it had all been snuffed out by Sidious's ambitions. He glanced down at Obi-Wan Kenobi, still kneeling beside Qui-Gon. The younger Jedi's face was pale, his knuckles white, where they gripped his fallen master's tunic. Dooku had never met Obi-Wan in person, but he had heard Qui-Gon speak of him, a promising young man, steadfast and dutiful, though perhaps too bound by the Council's rigid teachings. "Obi-Wan, is it?" Dooku asked softly. "Yes, sir," Obi-Wan replied, his voice rough with grief. "Qui-Gon always spoke highly of you," Dooku said, his tone carrying an unexpected warmth. "Do not take the blame for this." If only I had been faster," Obi-Wan began, his words faltering. "No," Dooku interrupted firmly. "This was not your fault." The truth burned on his tongue. This was Sidio's doing, not the fault of any Jedi, but he swallowed the words. Obi-Wan was too young, too deep in the Order's indoctrination to understand. Instead, Dooku placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Leave this place. Contact the Council. Tell them what has happened here." Obi-Wan hesitated. "And you?" "I will remain," Dooku said. "There are matters I must attend to." Without further question, Obi-Wan rose, gently setting Qui-Gon's body down. He gave Dooku a respectful nod before hurrying back toward the hangar. When the younger Jedi's footsteps faded, Dooku knelt beside Qui-Gon one last time. His voice was barely a whisper. "I swear it, old friend. I will avenge you." As he stood, a ripple in the Force caught his attention. Something strong, raw, untamed. It came from the direction of the hangar. Following the sensation, Dooku stepped into the bright expanse of the palace hangar. And there, standing in the middle of the empty space, was a boy. He looked no older than 9 or 10, sandy-haired and wide-eyed, scanning the room with a mix of hope and fear. "Master Obi-Wan?" "Master Qui-Gon." "Hello," the boy called, his voice echoing. "Is anybody there? I came to tell you we won. The Trade Federation ship's been destroyed." Dooku stopped a few paces away, studying him. This had to be the boy Sidious had spoken of. The one rumored to be the chosen one. The Jedi Council had taken him despite his age, an unusual move that spoke of some extraordinary potential. "My boy," Dooku said at last, "Qui-Gon Jinn is dead." The words froze the boy in place. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. "What about Master Obi-Wan?" he finally managed. "He has already departed for Coruscant," Dooku replied smoothly. "It appears he had more pressing matters to attend to." The boy's face fell. He had thought Obi-Wan cared, and yet here he was, abandoned. "You must be Anakin Skywalker," Dooku continued. "I was once Qui-Gon Jinn's master." Anakin swallowed hard. "Pleased to meet you, sir. But how did he die?" "He was killed by a Sith Lord," Dooku said, his voice edged with bitterness. "I warned the Jedi for years of a growing darkness, but they ignored me. Such is the cost of their ignorance." Anakin was silent, absorbing the words. And then an idea came to Dooku, a dangerous one. If this boy truly was as powerful as Sidious claimed, training him could be the key to vengeance. Together, they could end Sidious' schemes and dismantle the corrupt republic that had failed them all. "Anakin," Dooku said carefully, "I too was once a Jedi, but I left after seeing through their lies and hypocrisy. The Order now serves a corrupt Senate that no longer represents the people. In time, the Jedi will fall, and when they do, it will be too late for you to act. I offer you a choice. Join me, and together we will bring peace to the galaxy." and we will avenge Qui-Gon's death." Anakin hesitated. "But I want to be a Jedi." "Yes," Dooku replied. "And where has that brought you? They took you from your mother, yet did not free her. They did not welcome you warmly, did they?" The boy's brow furrowed. Everything Dooku said struck uncomfortably close to the truth. "Join me, young Skywalker," Dooku pressed. "I will teach you power beyond anything the Jedi would allow. And in time, you will free your mother. I promise it." At that, Anakin's eyes widened. Free his mother? The thought lit a fire in him. The flight from Naboo to Sereno was the first time Anakin Skywalker left a battlefield for the unknown. The adrenaline of victory over the Trade Federation was gone. In its place was a quiet, heavy anticipation. Count Dooku's ship cut smoothly through hyperspace, the blue-white swirl reflecting across the boy's face as he sat in the co-pilot's chair. His hands fidgeted in his lap, but his eyes kept darting toward the man beside him. This wasn't like being with Qui-Gon. Dooku's presence was colder, heavier, yet strangely reassuring. They landed on Sereno, Dooku's ancestral homeworld, a planet of sprawling estates, marble halls, and untouched wilderness. For Anakin, who had only known the sand-choked streets of Mos Espa and the sterile corridors of Jedi transports, it was like stepping into another galaxy entirely. From the very first morning, Dooku made it clear. Life here would be nothing like the Jedi Temple. There were no councils, no initiates, no creeds chanted at sunrise. Instead, Anakin's days were filled with relentless training. Lightsaber combat came first. Dooku drilled him in the fundamentals: footwork, precision, the economy of motion. Where the Jedi might have emphasized defense and restraint, Dooku insisted on mastery over all forms of combat. "A warrior must understand every blade before choosing one," he would say, demonstrating Makashi's elegance one day, Juyo's ferocity the next. At first, Anakin's movements were too wild, too eager. He fought like a pod racer pilot taking a dangerous corner. Fast, risky, all instinct. But under Dooku's correction, that raw speed began to fuse with control. His strikes grew sharper, his defenses tighter. By the second year, he could stand against his master for more than a few minutes before yielding. By the fifth, their duels would stretch for hours. The Force came next. The Jedi had taught him that emotions were to be controlled, suppressed. Dooku, however, spoke of them as tools. Anger could sharpen one's reflexes. Passion could fuel endurance. The trick was not to be consumed, but to channel it with precision. When Anakin faltered, Dooku would tell him stories, tales of his own years in the Order, of Qui-Gon's idealism, of missions where the Council's stubbornness had cost lives. These weren't just lessons in history, they were carefully chosen parables, reinforcing the idea that the Jedi were blind to the galaxy's true needs. And there were secrets. For all the power Anakin gained, Dooku warned him of one great danger: exposure. To the galaxy, Anakin Skywalker was dead, another casualty of Naboo. The Jedi had mourned him, thinking he had perished alongside Qui-Gon. Sidious, too, must never know the truth, for the Sith Lord would try to claim him. So Sereno became both a sanctuary and a cage. Anakin's training was conducted in isolation, far from the eyes of Republic scouts or separatist spies. When they did travel, it was under assumed identities, and never for long. In their 12th year together, they made a pilgrimage to Ilum. Anakin had heard of the place from Jedi lore, the sacred world where initiates found their kyber crystals. Dooku allowed him to seek his own, and the Force guided Anakin to a brilliant blue shard. For a time, his saber shone with the color of the Jedi. But on their return to Sereno, Dooku proposed something different. Together, they meditated in darkness, focusing their will upon the crystal. Slowly, painfully, its hue bled from blue to a deep crimson. It was not an act of allegiance to the Sith, Dooku made that clear, but a declaration that they served neither Jedi nor Sith dogma. They were something else entirely. Warriors of balance, unbound by the hypocrisy of one side or the lust for domination of the other. Over the years, Anakin came to appreciate his master's philosophy. Where the Jedi had made him feel like an outsider, Dooku treated him as an heir to a great legacy. Where the Council saw danger in his attachments, Dooku encouraged him to remember them, to let them drive him, but never control him. And yet, as much as Anakin admired Dooku, a restlessness gnawed at him. From Serenno's secluded halls, he watched the galaxy through intercepted transmissions and political reports. The Clone Wars had erupted, a conflict Dooku himself might once have led, had he remained with Sidious. Instead, others fought under the banner of the Separatists, while the Republic answered with legions of clone soldiers. Anakin longed to be out there, testing his strength against Jedi and warlords alike, shaping the fate of the galaxy rather than hiding from it. Each year of waiting felt heavier than the last. The galaxy was at war. From the safety, or prison, of Serenno, Anakin watched the HoloNet broadcasts. Separatist fleets clashed with Republic armadas, clone troopers fought on worlds he had never heard of, and Jedi led campaigns at the front lines. It was the kind of conflict that tested warriors, the kind of stage where legends were born. And yet, he was here, waiting. The Clone Wars had begun without Count Dooku. When he had severed ties with Sidious all those years ago, the Sith Lord had been forced to find new figureheads for the Separatist movement, pawns who could lead in Dooku's absence. They filled the role, but none of them had the Count's discipline or his strategic genius. Sidious still pulled the strings on both sides of the war, but the conflict lacked the precision it might have had under Dooku's hand. Not that Anakin cared about the Separatists' fortunes. What bothered him was the inaction. The Clone Wars were the perfect chance to test his strength, to fight Jedi openly, to seize the initiative in shaping the galaxy's future. Instead, Dooku insisted they remain in hiding until the exact moment to strike. Anakin confronted him one evening in the training hall. "Master Dooku," he began, pacing with barely contained energy, "I know you've always told me to wait, to remain hidden until the time is right. But when is that? I've never fought a Jedi outside of our sparring matches. You've kept me locked away here while the galaxy tears itself apart." Dooku, polishing the hilt of his saber, didn't look up. "Patience, young Skywalker. Our time will come. If we act too soon, we risk everything." Anakin stopped pacing. "Risk what? We've trained for 13 years. What are we waiting for exactly?" Finally, Dooku set the saber down. "You are old enough now to understand the truth. The war you see, it is a play orchestrated by one man, Darth Sidious. He controls both the Separatists and the Republic. The Jedi do not know it, but the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, Sheev Palpatine, is the Sith Lord himself." Anakin stared at him. "The Chancellor is Sidious?" "Yes," Dooku said, "and he has laid the foundation for the Republic's fall. Every clone trooper in the Grand Army carries an inhibitor chip, programmed to obey a single command, Protocol 66. When Sidious gives the order, they will turn on the Jedi. The order will be exterminated, and he will rule as Emperor." Anakin felt a chill run through him. "You've always said he was dangerous, but I never imagined this." "Which is why we wait," Dooku said, his voice low and deliberate. "When he executes Order 66, chaos will erupt. That will be our moment. We will strike him down, and whoever his new apprentice is, the galaxy will see us as the ones who ended his reign. Heroes, not usurpers. With the Jedi gone and Sidious exposed, we can rebuild the galaxy on our terms." Anakin frowned. "How will we know when he gives the order?" "We will feel it," Dooku said simply. "The disturbance in the Force will be unmistakable. Until then, you must remain hidden. If Sidious learns you live, he will try to take you, and I will not allow that." The younger man hesitated, then asked the question that had been festering for years. "Master, when I joined you, you promised we'd free my mother. 13 years and I've waited. You always said it was too risky to go to Tatooine. But when? When will I see her again?" Dooku's expression softened slightly. "When our plan is complete, you may do as you wish. I will see to it she is brought to you, or that you go to her yourself. You have my word." It was an answer, but not the one Anakin wanted. He nodded, masking his disappointment. "Yes, Master." Later that night, alone in his quarters, his thoughts churned. The promise to free his mother had been what first bound him to Dooku, but the years had passed, and the promise had gone unfulfilled. The war outside called to him, the chance to fight, to lead, to be more than a shadow in hiding. He clenched his fists. If the moment Dooku spoke of didn't come soon, he wasn't sure how much longer he could wait, and somewhere far across the galaxy, Sheev Palpatine prepared to utter the words that would change everything. The moment came without warning. Anakin was in the courtyard practicing a Makashi sequence against a training droid when a wave of darkness slammed into him through the Force. It was like a storm breaking inside his chest, a surge of death, betrayal, and fury, so strong it nearly staggered him. He dropped the droid with a single, vicious strike and ran for Dooku's private chambers. The doors slid open before he could even knock. "Master," he said, breathing hard, "have you felt it?" Dooku was already fastening his cloak. "Yes, my apprentice, the trap is sprung. Sidious has given the order. Across the galaxy, the Jedi are being cut down by the very soldiers they trusted." Anakin's heart pounded. The disturbance he felt wasn't just death. It was the unraveling of the Jedi Order. In that instant, he understood the magnitude of what Dooku had been waiting for. "We depart for Coruscant at once," Dooku said. Anakin nodded sharply. "Yes, Master." Their ship streaked through hyperspace, the hum of its engines underscoring the tension between them. Anakin had never been to Coruscant since leaving as a boy. The thought of returning, not as a Jedi initiate, but as a warrior ready to confront the most powerful Sith in the galaxy, sent a restless thrill through him. He spent the journey pacing the cabin, replaying his master's plan in his mind. They would strike quickly, eliminate Sidious and his apprentice, and claim control. The Republic would see them as liberators who ended the reign of a tyrant. The galaxy would finally know peace. But beneath that vision, another thought simmered. If they succeeded, nothing would stand between him and the power to find his mother. When they emerged from hyperspace, Coruscant filled the viewport, a vast city planet glittering under a blanket of night. The spires of the Senate district rose like blades of steel, and among them the Senate office building loomed, its highest tower glowing with the light of Sidious' private chambers. Dooku's ship touched down on a private landing pad. The two descended the ramp together, cloaked and silent. As they approached the entrance, Anakin could feel it, the oppressive weight of the dark side radiating from the building. Sidious was here, and he was expecting them. The doors to the Chancellor's office slid open with a hiss. Inside, Sheev Palpatine sat in his chair, turned partially toward the massive windows that overlooked Coruscant's skyline. His hood was lowered, revealing a face twisted and scarred, the skin warped by years of dark side corruption. Standing at his side was a tall figure cloaked in black robes, his hood casting his features into shadow. Palpatine's voice was almost amused. "Count Dooku, how surprising to see you alive after all these years. And you've brought young Skywalker. How touching." Anakin tensed. "He knows my name." "Of course I do," Sidious said smoothly. "Did you think I wouldn't notice you've been hiding him from me, Dooku? You've always been so predictable." Dooku's voice was cold. "You left me no choice. I sacrificed everything for our cause, and you repaid me with betrayal. Today, that ends." The hooded figure stepped forward, and the light revealed a face Anakin recognized from Jedi records. Horns, tattoos, eyes burning yellow. "Darth Maul," Dooku said, his tone sharpening. "Impossible. Obi-Wan Kenobi killed you on Naboo." Maul's lips curled into a smile. "Your Jedi was sloppy. I survived. And now, I am more than you will ever be." Anakin felt his own pulse quicken. This was the Sith who had killed Qui-Gon, the one who had set so much of his life on this path. Sidious rose slowly from his chair. "You've come here to kill me, Dooku, but you've made a fatal mistake. Maul and I are the true masters of the galaxy now, and you are nothing." Dooku's hand went to his lightsaber. "We'll see." The confrontation was seconds away from igniting into battle, the air between them crackling with tension. Anakin's grip tightened on his own saber hilt, his mind already mapping the fight. 2 against 2. If Dooku kept Sidious occupied, he could take Maul. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he remembered Dooku's promise. When this was over, The galaxy would be theirs, but promises had a way of breaking. The Chancellor's office seemed to shrink as the four men faced each other. Sidious's pale eyes locked on Dooku with quiet contempt, while Maul's feral grin widened, his hands itching to ignite his double-bladed saber. Across from them, Dooku stood tall, composed but coiled with readiness, his cape draping like a shadow at his back. Anakin stood at his master's side, his own presence a boiling mix of anticipation and fury. No one moved. Not yet. Then Sidious's voice cut through the silence, smooth and cold. "It's treason, then." In one fluid motion, red blades hissed to life, two from Sidious's hands, a single crimson bar from Dooku, and the unmistakable twin arcs of Maul's weapon. The room was flooded in scarlet light, the hum of energy rising into a howl as the first strikes fell. The battle split instantly into two duels. Sidious lunged at Dooku, his movements a blur of precision and aggression. The Chancellor's blade work was unlike anything Anakin had ever seen. It had the fluid grace of Makashi but fused with an unpredictable savagery. Dooku met him stroke for stroke, his refined technique holding the Sith Lord at bay for now. But every exchange pushed him closer to the edge. Anakin and Maul circled each other like predators. Maul's strikes came fast and relentless, each swing designed to batter through defenses with sheer ferocity. But Anakin didn't just defend, he countered with a precision born from 13 years of Dooku's discipline, his blade intercepting Maul's with surgical accuracy. "You're strong," Maul snarled between strikes, "but strength without rage is nothing." "I don't need your advice," Anakin shot back, parrying a flurry and driving Maul back with a sudden, vicious riposte. The room became a storm of red light and shattering impacts. Palpatine's cackles echoed as his blade locked against Dooku's, sparks flying between their sabers. "You've grown old, my friend," Sidious taunted, his strength forcing Dooku back a step. "You can't protect him from me forever." Dooku gritted his teeth, holding the lock. "We'll see." Across the room, Maul spun his saber staff in a blinding arc, trying to break through Anakin's guard. Anakin ducked under the swing and came up with a powerful strike aimed at Maul's centerline, forcing the Zabrak to disengage. Their blades met again, and Maul's grin faltered as he realized the truth. This young man wasn't just keeping up with him. He was beginning to outmatch him. The duel raged on, each pair locked in their own deadly rhythm. Dooku shifted into an aggressive Makashi stance, thrusting and sidestepping with precision, trying to draw Sidious into overcommitting. But the Sith Lord was too cunning. His attacks came in deceptive bursts, feints masking real strikes, forcing Dooku to defend more than he could attack. Anakin, meanwhile, began pressing Maul harder. His control was exact, but the edges of his technique were fraying, not from weakness, but from the thrill of the fight. Every successful parry, every narrow dodge, fed into a surge of confidence. For the first time in his life, he wasn't holding back. Maul's yellow eyes narrowed. He recognized the look in Anakin's face, the dangerous mix of skill and hunger. It was the same fire that had once burned in himself before Sidious had twisted it into something else. Then for the first time, the momentum shifted. Anakin feinted left, then broke Maul's guard with a powerful two-handed strike. The impact knocked the saber staff from Maul's grip, sending it spinning across the room. Without missing a beat, Anakin used the Force to call it to his free hand, igniting both blades. Now he stood over Maul, holding not one but two crimson sabers, his own and his enemies. "You've lost," Anakin said, his voice low and certain. Maul's breathing quickened, but his expression twisted into something almost amused. "You think this ends with me?" Anakin didn't answer. His gaze flicked briefly toward the other duel. Dooku was beginning to falter against Sidious's relentless assault. The Zabrak's words were drowned out by the hiss and crash of sabers as the battle pressed on, but Anakin could feel it. The outcome of both fights was about to change. Inini, Part 7. The duels reach their breaking point. Maul makes his desperate move. Dooku's defense begins to crumble, and Anakin is forced to make a split-second decision that will change everything.